Okay, folks, hey, how you doing? Welcome back. My name is Bill McGoldrick, and this is our second in a series of guitar lessons that I'm going to be going over. So really, to start this off again, I'm going to really try to recap what we did last week, and then try to move on. Last week I wanted to try to do 6 chords, but of course, me being as verbose as I am, got a little distracted and whatnot. But some of these chords are hard, and I don't know the easiest way. There is no easy way with really anything. I think I mentioned that I'm a commercial pilot. I have my commercial pilot's license, instrument license, been flying for 30 years. I get about 1,000 flight hours, and as they say, it takes about 10,000 hours in something to be really good at something. I probably have 3,000 or 4,000 hours in studying, but 10,000 hours is what it takes to be great at something. And guitar, you know, it just takes time, and it depends on what you want to do with guitar. Let's call it a 1 to 10 ratio, where 1 is where you are right now if you're a beginner and you've been watching this thing from the beginning, and 10 is Eric Clapton, let's say. Okay, so what do you want to do? What is your goal? And how many hours are you willing to put into it? If you're a young kid, you probably have some time to do that. Maybe you just want to learn, and what we're going to do today is try to put some of these chords together and maybe touch on a tune if we can. But again, to go over what we went over last week, I think we did C chord, and again, your fingers, 5 fingers, right? Thumb behind the neck. 4 frets here. Remember, we talked about this last week. Frets, it's like a grid. The guitar is just like a grid, if you will. So you have your strings, your 6th string, which is E, your 5th string, which is A, and you just got to memorize this. And I'm going to go over a few of the books that I really like, but D is your 4th string, G is your 3rd string, B is your 2nd string, and E is your, again, E on the high and E on the low. Your frets right now, right at the beginning, we're just going to be talking about these 4 frets down here. We're not going to be talking about here. I mean, all kinds of things you can do up there, no doubt. But right now, at the beginning, we're talking about here, and we're really talking about what I call open chords. Open chords where there are open strings ringing. And again, this is a C chord. It's the people's chord, the people's key of C. 3rd finger is in charge of all things on the 3rd fret. So I need the 3rd finger on that 3rd fret on the 5th string. And that's a C. That note is a C. And we'll talk a little bit about notes a little bit later too. But again, 2nd finger is in charge of all things in this 2nd fret. 2nd fret on the, and I hate to be belaboring this point again because we did all this last week. And you know, right now this is on YouTube. You can replay these things over and over again. So let me go a little bit more quickly. So we talked about C last week, and we're going to be using this book again. You know, and there are millions of these books. This is a good one, old-fashioned Mel Bay. They've been around forever. This is what a C chord. It's beautifully, very visual, and that's what we're talking about here. 3rd fret, 5th string, 3rd finger. And that's a C chord right now. The G chord we also talked about. And this is the version I want you to learn. I don't want you to do this with a 3rd finger. It just hampers you. You know, try to just, if you're going to learn in the beginning, you might as well learn correctly. And that's what this G chord. We talked about that last week. What other chord did we talk about last week? That was about it. Maybe we didn't talk about D or any of these others. So let's go to F. Okay, F is probably the hardest chord, right, at the beginning. It's just very difficult because you see this right here? You got to lay down those first two notes on the first 2 strings. You got to lay your finger down. So this is an F chord. It's actually very close to C. You just move it over. 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 4th string. That's the D string. That note happens to be an F. That's where the name of the note comes from. 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 3rd string. In that 1st finger, again, an F is really, really difficult. It's just the nature. And a little bit later on, I'm going to be talking about music, real music. And I've always wanted to traditionally teach people how to start by reading and things like that. But a lot of people just want to play songs and play chords. Again, it's that 1 to 10 ratio. Do you want to be Eric Clapton? Do you just want to strum chords? So you want to stay in that 2 and 3. The net about this is we have to learn these chords, these patterns. And I don't care if it's just like golf. It's like Tiger. I'm horrible at golf. I tried it a few times. It's just, I just never could get it, and because it takes that 10,000 hours. And just, you look at a Tiger Woods, it's such a beautiful sort of, effort that he does. And it's just a lot of practice, the joke about the person who is in New York City and they're lost, and he talks to somebody who's trying to get to Carnegie Hall, and says, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the guy says, practice. That's all that there is to this. Right here. If you learn these 3 chords, you could probably play 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 songs, because they're elementary. They're part. It's really sort of the traditional way people write songs with these 3 chords here. Let's put them together for a second. C chord. F chord. G chord. And that's what songwriters do. They just start playing chords. Da da da, da da da, da da. When John Lennon and Paul McCartney first got together, they were about 14, 15 years old, and they would just put chords together and write words, and that's how they got really good at being probably the greatest songwriters of our generation, I think, of all time. So C, F, and G, it's really tough, and what you got to do, and I did this the last lesson too, it's C, F, practice going. What you're going to do at the beginning, you're going to be doing, and that's okay. You do it real slow. With music, do everything slow to start off with. Everything slow to start off, and then build up that time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's called a measure. We'll talk about that later. And F, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then go back to C. 1, 2, 3, and then try G. I wish I could think of it. We're going to actually put some of this together today and actually try a song. And you heard me singing before, and I'm pretty well known in the greater Boston area for playing my acoustic duo. And with that duo, I work with the best female vocalists in greater Boston for a reason, because nobody wants to really hear my voice. But you will be hearing my voice. It's just, most good musicians can sing in tune. It might not sound great. And my voice is not the greatest at all. But I'm doing it to teach you sort of things of how people put together. Like that C. La, 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 la. And that's how songwriters start. They just start. You could be a 12-year-old kid, get these 3, C, F, and G, and just write some words for whatever you fancy, whatever you're thinking about. So those are the first 3 chords. Again, it'll be like this, like I said, it'll be like that. And then changing, you're gonna, that's just the nature, but you just gotta, and then try to get it a little faster. And don't get frustrated. And music is very, very frustrating. Like I said, a small percentage of people keep up on guitar. It's just, it's a hard instrument. It's physically hard to hold these strings down. This is an acoustic guitar, which is a little bit harder to play than an electric guitar. And it can hurt your fingers. I've got fingers of steel from playing thousands of years. But it takes, and then you get, one thing new guitar players always do too, they're looking, and that's cool. That's the way it goes when you're first starting it. But you want to get to the point that you're not thinking about it at all. thinking about the song and making music. Which also brings up, further down the road, maybe lesson 20 or 30, we'll talk about the right hand. I've always believed that the right hand is where music is played. Up here, you got to learn these chords, no doubt about it. But watch my right hand here. The rhythm is coming from the right hand. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm accenting that second beat. Okay. Most of the music that you'll start off with, and we'll get in a little bit in that. We'll have 4 beats in a measure. What is a measure? We'll get to that. So, but if you listen to drummers, a lot of times 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. They're accenting 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. That's the basic part of rock and roll. If you think of rock and roll, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. The right hand is crucial to becoming great. It really is. To be able to add rhythmic, and guitar is a very rhythmic instrument. I talked to you about this last time, how I beat this guitar pretty well. This is a very expensive guitar, and but I play very hard because people want to feel the music. They want to hear that 2/4. This is what gets people dancing. Where we are right now, we're right here. We're at C, F, and G, just trying to get that left hand first before we worry about the right hand. Okay, 3 more chords that you need to get down here. D, A, and E. These are, again, the major chords of open chords. And if you take a look at D right here, and we'll get better graphics as we go along in this thing, the D chord here is like a triangle. Again, whenever you see an X here and X here, don't play those notes. When you see like an O, that means an open string. When it says 1, first finger, 2nd fret. Again, remember I said 2nd finger is in charge of everything, unless you need to play 2 notes on the same fret. So this is a triangle. It's basically 1, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret. Again, not easy, but there's no substitute to just banging away hours in your bedroom, just practicing these chords. So let's take a look at D again. And I talked about this last week. When you first play, it's going to sound like this. And that's because you got to come straight down and hold that note. Hold that note. Sounds like the old NBC thing. NBC. This is a great chord. It's used on everything. Old Led Zeppelin song. I forget it. Who songs? It's a very critical chord. You have to know it. Again, so once you get C, then you go to F, and you go to G, and you go to D. These are, your first 4 chords. You need these chords in your back pocket. Another big one here is A. But again, X, don't play that bottom E string. O is an open A. O is an open high E. And it's 2, 3, 4 right across. I don't like 2, 3, 4. I use 1, 2, 3. I've always used 1, 2, 3. So I'll correct Mr. Mel Bay. It's just, that's how I've learned. Yeah, you can do that, but that seems better for me. 1, 2, 3 right across the board here. Again, C, F, G, A. And again, the more you know of these, the more songs you can do. And they're all variations of this, like a C, a C7, C minor, C9, C9, 7. There are millions of these, but we're just doing the basics here. C, F, G, D is the triangle, A is 1, 2, 3 across the board, Let's just play these together. F, G, D. Again, that A there is great for rock and roll. And you can lay that right down. And we'll get into that. That's an old Chuck Berry riff that I learned watching Chuck Berry in probably about the mid-'60s on the Mike Douglas Show. And very few out there will know what the Mike Douglas Show is. Okay, our sixth chord here, E, as in echo. Again, open bottom E. Open high E, open high B, and first finger, first fret, third string, that is a G sharp. And then second finger, second fret, fifth string, and third finger, second fret of the fourth string, the D string. That's an E. And this is, again, critical chord. Johnny Cash. Da 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 bum 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 A. Ba 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 bum. One we haven't done yet, B. Da da da. E is critical, and eventually, probably lesson 8, 9, 10, we're going to move E up and go into bar chords. Bar chords are critical. Everything's critical. The more you know, the better off you're going to be playing with different people. Again, 1 to 10. What do you want to do? Do you want to do John Denver songs and play open chords? Great. Then you're at 1. You can do that once you get to a 3 level, I believe. Okay, so let's go over this again. C, F, G, D, A, E. Okay, so we got, I think about 15 minutes or so left. I wanted to do go over another thing here. Go a little bit, 10 minutes left. So just quickly here. This is this great book, and I would recommend it. Pick it up. I'm not selling anything here. Bill Levitt was one of my teachers when I was at Berkeley in the 70s. He was a legend in the music industry and the music business. But again, we're going to talk a little bit about real music. That's what real music looks like. And in order to play real music, you got to kind of know something about notes here. Remember, every good boy does fine, e.g., every good boy, etc. That has a meaning. F-A-C-E for the spaces. So the lines are E, G, B, D, and F on the top one. And F-A-C-E. Let's talk about notes here, okay? So that's a whole note. Let's talk about measures here. This is a measure. And normally in 90% of the music you're going to be starting with, a measure has 4 beats. And a whole note gets 4 beats. Here's a whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a whole note. The second note is a half note. A half note gets 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the next is a quarter note. A quarter note gets 1 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next one with a little ties are eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if I was to play this right across it, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's the beginning of learning how to read music. This is probably stuff you did in 3rd grade. You've probably forgotten, but it can come in handy here. Notes in the first position here. We're just going to do a little bit here, and we'll just do maybe the first 4 measures here. And again, what do we have here? The first note is a C. The second note is a D. These are half notes, right? Again, the whole notes, don't have a stem. Half notes have a stem, so that'd be, and that's, let's talk about notes here for a second. So we're going to just do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That's a C scale. That's your first scale that we're going to teach here. Third finger, third fret, fifth string. That's a C because, again, you've memorized already, right, the strings. E, A, D, G, B, E. So if this is an A, right, a whole step up, and again, something, where is it? I don't have the keyboard here right now, but again, you know, there are only 8 notes, really 12 notes, but 8 notes without sharps and flats here. And between B and C is a half step. So A, B, C. And we'll get a little bit more in depth on that right now. But C is the first note. Again, we were learning chords, but individual notes are important too. So C, 2, open D, 3, 4, E, 2, and then F, 1, 2, G, 1, oh, and G is open G, then A, I'm going to be going back to this book. I think it's important at the beginning of where you are musically that you just don't learn chords, because it's the difference between being a literate musician and being someone who's not a literate musician. It's being able to look at music and put things together. So again, my last thing I wanted to go over is put some of these chords together and use a song here. And I picked out a simple song. There were some of the chords that we learned today. It's called Act Naturally from the Beatles. And so it's pretty straight ahead. Again, I told you I have an awful voice, but so it's going to start, again, this is G clef, if you remember that from second grade. It's in the key of G. We're not even talking about keys yet, but we get only a few minutes left here. So I'm just going to quickly go over this right now, and we'll get a scan of this while I'm playing it. They're going to put me in a movie, see. They're going to put a good car for me. We'll make a film about a man who's sad and lonely, and all you got to do is act naturally. I bet you I'm gonna be a big star. I'll be a puncher you can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star. And an A chord, and I can tell apart so well. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Again, it's hope you'll see me in the movie. See? G G G G G G G G G G G G G G C C G G G G. That's it. So we will come back next week and we'll do the third lesson. We'll get into the next chords. Again, what I'd like you to just get, you know, one last thing. I wanted to show you an exercise for chromatic. Just get used to playing all the notes. Right hand, up and down. Go over all the chords. C, G, F, D, A, and E. In the C scale. C, D, third fret, fifth string, third finger. Open D, second is E. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Remember that from first grade? It has a meaning. So we'll see you, and I'll just take you out playing some blues. Thank you.